All right, guys, welcome back again for another set of episodes from TEACUP. That is episodes 5 and 6. And I think I'm going to start shortening these up a little bit, mainly just focus on the highlights from the episodes, and we can talk about the theories and where things are going afterwards. So the episode starts off with Ruben, and he's still trapped in the silo, trying to resist the urge of walking into the field of the tree and being destroyed and mutilated. And we get an example of what could happen to him in this moment because we see a little spider dangling down and is drawn towards the tree, and then it's eventually killed and legs are breaking off and all of that good stuff. So after seeing that, we cut back down in the basement with Travis and James. And Travis is having a hard time believing that James is really a human. But James begins to tell Travis about the force field and McNabb and Arlo and all of that stuff. And he starts to sound a little convincing to Travis. So Travis begins with telling us his backstory and how he's connected to McNabb. Apparently McNabb and Travis met at a bar where McNabb was just rambling on about the alien visitors and the barrier and all of that stuff, just sounding like a crazy person at this bar. And since they felt like he was too drunk to go home that night, Travis, the new guy, the new bartender, ended up giving him a ride home. And this is where he started to create more of a connection with McNabb, learning more about the aliens. So while we begin to go through the montage of McNabb filling Travis in on all the alien details, he ends up telling Travis about how they can just hitch a ride on a meteor and come to Earth, and how they inhabit your body and how we don't really know exactly why they chose to come to Earth. He also tells Travis that when a good alien shows up, a bad one shows up to hunt that one down. And ultimately he tells Travis that he doesn't want him to just immediately believe all these things. He's like, just take the information I'm giving you, weigh the pros and the cons, and decide for yourself if you think it's true or not. And of course Travis ends up asking McNabb, like, hey, how the hell do you know all of this stuff? Like, what's going on? And McNabb doesn't answer the question. He looks up as a shooting star is going by and he's like, hey, that could be something or it could be nothing. Could be an alien entering the Earth's atmosphere, or it could just be a shooting star or nothing at all, you know? But I'm thinking McNabb knows these things because at some point in time he possibly was inhabited by one of the aliens. But we don't find out for sure about this just yet. So while Travis is getting all the details from McNabb, a familiar face shows up, and it's Lieutenant Olson, who we find out is also in cahoots with McNabb. And they want to take Travis out to the woods to give him a little shooting range practice so he could be prepared to kill someone if he has to. So at this time we receive even more of an information dump. We find out that the aliens can't really be killed, you can only kill the host, and they'll only just jump to someone else. McNabb shows Travis a picture of a woman named Mary Ellis Ducker, who's apparently being inhabited by a bad alien, and how they need to go take her out, and how she's the one that they've been following for the past couple of years. We find this out earlier, but McNabb reminds Travis about the people he talks to in the chat room who are also some sort of like rebellious alien fighters, and they track people and pay attention to people who possibly might be inhabited by an alien. They're like this top secret private group of alien followers. So anyway, they further explain to Travis on their hunch about how Mary Ellis is possibly inhabited. How she just started deviating from her normal routine and how she's getting more publicity now, basically bringing more attention to herself, and how she's preparing for a good visitor to come. So their plans are to follow her because they know that she's going to track down the good visitor once he gets here. And of course, once that happens, they plan to take out the bad alien. And of course, all of this shooting range stuff is just images of them shooting at themselves because it could be one of them eventually, and they need to be able to kill the other person who's possibly a friend. Then while we're getting all this exposition and backstory and all that good stuff, we find out that McNabb told Travis about what happened to his daughter and how she just went for a walk one day and came back and she was inhabited by a good visitor. Then afterwards, a bad visitor showed up, held McNabb at gunpoint and kidnapped his daughter. He made her drink the rainbow liquid and then they both walked through the barrier. McNabb said he tried to follow behind, but then the barrier knocked him back. And then of course that's how he got that nice scar that he shows at the beginning of this episode. He said ever since he got the scar, he was able to sense when there was a barrier nearby, which explains why he knew where the barrier was back on James's farm. He said eventually the bad visitor, the assassin, ended up killing his daughter by slitting her throat and throwing her in the garbage behind a store. And of course this doesn't explain everything, but I do like the fact that they've been explaining a lot of loose ends about information that we don't know how the characters know, especially like characters like McNabb. It's nice to know that information. And we also find out in these flashbacks how McNabb had some of this rainbow liquid in a necklace, but he ended up giving it to Travis. And he does this before they go to track down Mary Ellis, and he tells Travis all he needs him to do is drive the car. And he also promises Travis that no one will get hurt if he can help it. So it's a little disclaimer there because you know some crazy shit's gonna happen. Alright, so on the day they're looking to track down Mary Ellis, of course they've been getting information from their little chat group about where she's gonna be, so they're on the lookout for her. During this time we also get to see Hayden in his dope-ass Pontiac Firebird, who was apparently a part of the group with Olsen and McNabb, but he's no longer a part of their group anymore because they thought he was crazy. So he's kind of on some Lone Ranger shit right now. But we find out that the mask that he used to wear is the one that will go to Travis. During this time, Mary Ellis pulls up in a van, which is a van we recognize that Olsen actually ends up driving later on. And she also lets out the killer dog that runs off into the woods that we also remember that dies later on from crossing the barrier. So we're starting to see a lot of things connecting here now. So McNabb, Travis, and Olsen follow Mary Ellis over to the house where we end up seeing all the Slaughterfest happening. And we can see that Harbinger is basically inhabiting the older woman that we see that dies later on from the dog. So here's where shit gets chaotic. They try to warn the family, but all this shit ends in a big shootout. Of course, we already know that. McNabb runs out with the woman with the zip ties, but of course she gets away, runs off into the woods. And McNabb looks over at the silo and can see that Mary Ellis is setting up the tree, which is the trap. And he knows that he's running out of time, so unfortunately, he takes off because he has to leave Travis behind. And during this time, because Mary Ellis is wounded, after setting up the tree, the bad alien now transfers over to Travis in this moment. Now at this time, Travis's task was to set up the pool. I don't know if we know all the rules surrounding the pool right now, but I'll just let you guys know. Setting up the pool is a way to actually save someone who is being inhabited, so you don't actually have to kill that person. You can drown them and then you have to bring them back, and that can save that person's life while also killing the alien. Now, after inhabiting Travis, Mary Ellis is now herself again, and she lets off 2 shots on Travis to his chest. And then the bad alien, now inside of Travis, knocks Mary Ellis upside the head, and she bleeds out and dies on the ground near the pool, which is where we find her later. But now Travis is now the wounded one. But it's just important to remember that once the host is wounded, the alien will try to transfer to someone else. So Travis later tells us that he was so fucked up that it had to move into Olsen. We see it drink the rainbow liquid, and Travis is able to escape back inside the house. Travis knows that he's running out of time after giving James all of this information, so he throws him a knife to cut himself loose, and then Travis blows his damn brains out because he knows more than likely he won't get help in time before he dies. So then James runs outside. He ends up saving Ruben from the tree in the silo. Ruben starts beating his ass because of the whole cheating situation. Then the two head back home on horseback, where they run into McNabb, Harbinger, and the others. And then that's where episode 5 ends. Alright, so episode 6 starts off with showing us Donald as he's standing out in the yard looking up at a jet as it crosses through the sky. And it looks like he has a plan to start a fire. Now, we don't find this out until later, but Donald thinks that it's a good plan to start a fire and possibly signal for help. And of course, him at this moment looking up at a jet that's passing by is thinking about how that's the outside world that's not that far away and he could possibly signal for help. But anyway, during this time, they're patching up Grandma Assassin Ellen, and everyone else returns to the farm. And at this time, McNabb is knocked out from his wounds, and Donald and James go up to look at Lieutenant Olsen and look at what happened. At this time, while looking at Lieutenant Olsen's crime scene, James and Donald now come to the conclusion that the assassin is Ellen, and how they need to warn everyone, and how James needs to go talk to Ellen. Then we jump out in the woods where Nicholas is leading his parents out to the rainbow liquid so they can go collect it. And at this time, Valeria tells Ruben how she's so sorry about cheating and all that bullshit, and well, whatever. But at this time, while they're trying to collect the liquid, a wolf shows up and starts trying to eat the shit. Ruben is trying to tell Nicholas that there's a bullet in the chamber and how he needs to kill it immediately since they need the liquid, but Nicholas is being a pussy and he doesn't actually do anything in time enough so they can save some of the liquid. But they do find out in this moment that drinking the liquid and walking across the barrier safely is true because they see it happen to the wolf. But still, Ruben's son is a pussy because he didn't shoot the damn thing in time so they could save some of the rainbow liquid. Then we cut back to the farm over at the animal clinic where McNabb was being patched up, but he wakes up and is pointing a gun at every damn body because he doesn't know who the hell he can trust. So his only goal is to take Harbinger and get the hell out of there. But James shows up and tells McNabb that Travis and Olsen is dead. And McNabb is like, this is what the hell happens when the thing shows up. And they're all having a conversation, but Donald tries to rush him from behind him. McNabb turns around, shoots Donald. So in the whole struggle, Donald gets shot, but luckily he's wearing the vest from earlier, and McNabb is able to take off into the woods. So McNabb is on the run and they're out looking for him. So while McNabb is running around somewhere out missing, they find out that the assassin is no longer an Ellen and that it has jumped to someone new. But now we don't know who the hell it is, including us, the viewers. And then of course at the end of this episode, Nicholas tells the others exactly what I've told you guys earlier, which is the way to save someone and get the assassin out of them is to drown that person. Then of course bring them back, following the whole resuscitating instructions that we saw earlier. So I would definitely say episodes 5 and 6 were pretty good, but I can tell you guys right now that 7 and 8 is where things are going to get pretty exciting pretty chaotic, and we're gonna have a lot more to talk about. Also, let me know you guys' thoughts on what the hell's going on right now, but I think this is where things are gonna get very interesting because currently we do not know who the assassin is right now, and it's gonna be pretty fun for everyone to look around and guess and try to figure out what's going on. This is kind of where that whole, the thing element of the show comes back into play, and it becomes very fun to watch and speculate on. Now, of course, it gets a little boring because that means we have to sort of follow everyone going about their normal pace and kind of being on standby, waiting on the alien to show up. But it's fun for us to sort of sit back and kind of guess and keep a lookout on what the hell's going on to figure out when the assassin is going to make his next move. But that'll do it for the recaps for this week, guys. Once again, thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, take care.